Hi, in this video I'm going to be going through the flight delay compensation rules, and to do that I'm going to switch across in a second to a flowchart which goes through step by step all the rules that you have to satisfy in order to make a compensation claim. Those rules, and if you satisfy them, you can claim anything up to €600. So let's just switch across to that flowchart, and hopefully this will all make sense and it breaks it down into very straightforward steps. So now in front of us we have the flight delay compensation claim flowchart. And we begin by asking the very first question, and that's, was the flight late on arrival by more than 3 hours? Arrival time is deemed to be when the doors of the aircraft first opened, not when it lands on the tarmac. If the answer to that question is no, unfortunately, there's no compensation claim to be made. However, if the answer to that question is yes, the next question is, was the delay the fault of the airline? If the answer to that is no, if, for example, there's bad weather, erupting volcanoes, striking staff and crew, then those aren't the fault of the airline, and in that case, again, no compensation can be made. However, if it was the fault of the airline, so for example, the crew are either late or sick and they haven't got a backup or good enough backup plan in place to replace the crew and the flight is delayed by more than 3 hours in this case, then that is the airline's fault. And then we go on to the next question. And that is, did the flight depart from an EU airport? If that's a no, the next question is, did the flight arrive to an EU airport? In other words, those two questions combined is any flight that departs and arrives at an airport outside of the EU, then we go across to the no, and no compensation claim can be made. And that's only fair because it's a flight completely outside the EU. Coming back a stage, where we ask the question, did the flight arrive to an EU airport? If the answer to that is a yes, the next question is, was the flight operator an EU carrier? If the answer to that question is no, so for example, Qantas, Air Canada, American Airlines, Singapore Airlines and so on, if that answer is no, then again no compensation can be made. However, if it's an EU operator, British Airways, Ryanair, EasyJet, Lufthansa, Air France and so on, then we go down to the next question, which is, was the flight distance more than 1,500 kilometres? But let's just jump up a stage because we jumped across to the no on the question, did the flight depart from an EU airport? So if that's a yes, all flights, regardless of the airline, are caught within the EU flight delay compensation rules. So whether it's British Airways or Ryanair or Air Canada or American Airlines, they are all covered by these rules where they depart from an EU airport. So both of those questions land as it, was the flight distance more than 1,500 kilometres? If the answer to that is no, you can claim €250. However, if the answer is yes, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here. The next question is, was the flight within the EU? If it was within the EU, then you can claim more. So you can claim €400. However, if the answer to that is no, the next question to satisfy is, was the flight distance more than 3,500 kilometres? If that's a no, you can claim €400 in that case. However, if the answer to that question is yes, the following or the final question is, was the flight arrival time delayed by more than 4 hours? If it wasn't delayed by more than 4 hours, then you can claim €300. However, if it's a yes, delayed by more than 4 hours, then you can claim the maximum compensation, which in this case is €600. To make that claim, you would have to write a letter to your airline, and you can find their address on their website. So I hope by going through the flight delay compensation rules, you understand those a little bit better. If you have any questions about those rules, please pop a question in the comments below. Please give us a thumbs up or subscribe to our YouTube channel. But also, if you'd like to find out a bit more or to get a copy of this flight delay compensation flowchart and also some free compensation letters, template letters, there's a link below that will take you to get a copy of those. There's also a flight cancellation flowchart and flight cancellation template letters too, and you can find those on the link below. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you, or I wish you all the luck in doing your flight delay compensation claim.